Hi, this is Pete Delisle. I'm really pleased to have an opportunity to talk with you today about something that is just delightful, and that's the project and the Academy for Excellence in Engineering Education. It was my privilege and honor at the University of Illinois these many years ago to have the chance to work cooperatively with my colleagues and friends, both faculty and students, to look toward a common interest that we had, and that was to improve and generally positively affect the quality of engineering education at what I consider to be the finest engineering school in the country. And so to look back and to reflect upon what happened back in those days, and to think about the things that had to occur in order for us to have a successful start of the program, really quite remarkable. First and foremost, the General Electric Fund sought the University of Illinois College of Engineering out to ask if we might not be able to address this very special problem of developing both student and faculty competencies and capabilities. And we centered that around a development plan that appealed to everyone, not just new students, but also senior members of faculty that have been working at the college in some cases for 30 years. In addition to that, what I was struck by was the willingness of people to immediately identify with the positiveness of the project and to lend their immediate support to what we were trying to accomplish. Of course, I was a relative newcomer, and so the fact that they were willing to embrace the idea and to provide me direct support as kind of the initiating agent for the activity, combined with the willingness of the GE Fund to see that we had some capability to respond that would really be meaningful for engineering education, is two forces that converged. And then finally, just the general climate of the College of Engineering at the University of Illinois always promotes innovation. And that's one of the reasons I've been so proud to have been associated with the College of Engineering, because I see it as probably one of the most innovative environments I've ever had the chance to work in. And it's constantly growing and changing, and even in the difficult times that we all face at this point in time, I have absolute confidence that Illinois will continue to emerge as not just the premier engineering school, but also contribute significantly to the growth of young men and women to be the leaders in technology.
What's my passion? That's what it is. I love to be in a classroom. I had other job offers to go to companies and all, and I said, "Can I teach there?" They just, this is what I love to do.
I think it's all about people, so it's the interaction with the students. Right? So I still have lots of interaction with graduate students, but not much with undergraduate students anymore, so I miss that. There's a lot of excitement when undergraduate students kind of get your first course that's really in your major, right? And this is sort of what you came for, and you're really excited about it, and it's fun to teach those, and I don't get to do that much.
There's no shame in being in a different profession if you don't love engineering. But if you love it, I think there's probably no better profession in the world.
This job is fantastic. You really get to do what you enjoy. You get to work with people. You get to sort of guide them in a way that they discover things for themselves. It's not so much my teaching; it's my assisting you figuring out what it is. So I think lecturing is fine, but really coupled with lecturing, helping people figure out how things work and what are the basic principles, I think that knowledge lasts for a very long time, and that's very gratifying.
I am so excited every day to go and tell my students what I have learned today by working on my research. For example, we have both teaching and research appointments in all engineering college professors, all university professors have. Majority of them have a significant research component into our work, as you know. So I kind of see that the teaching and research is a one comprehensive integrated program. So I get excited to tell it to somebody every day what I learn, and whom you will find, these poor students are there always to listen to me, right? And that's one reason. But the other thing is I like to pass on the information. I like to see how young people learn and how they grow. I teach not for teaching. I would like to see whether the students are learning or not.
What makes you very different from any other school? I see a lot of passion here for people and for their subjects. I see excitement about where we're going. There's a great sense here of things are changing, and being part of the engineering program here means that you're actually going to be part of the next generation of people that are actually kind of really change the world. So that's very exciting to see.
To me, the most important thing is the collegiality between the faculty and the quality of exchanges and interactions between the faculty, the students, the staff. There is something special about this university where there are a lot of collaborations going on between faculty within the same department, across departments, a lot of interactions with students, postdocs, and that facilitates tremendously what you can do on a day-to-day basis. And it really works this way. So to me, that's what makes Illinois unique to a large extent. And
U of I is certainly among the strongest schools in the country in engineering. And I think what makes it so strong are the students, the faculty, and just the exceptional resources that we have.
Of all places I could work, I love this place because people are down to earth here, and the students are from all over the world, and they're top notch, really motivated, very intelligent, and I'm so grateful for that. I never take that for granted. That we have the best students from the state of Illinois and from neighboring states, and we have some of the best students from Singapore, Pakistan, India, China. That is such a blessing. I'm so grateful for that.
A really good thing about Illinois is that, as I said, we pay a lot of attention to undergraduates. I think we provide lots of opportunity. The colleagues that you'll have, I think students learn as much from each other, right, as they do from the faculty. Maybe faculty don't want to think that, but I think they do, right, and that's good. Right? I tell my students they should do that, right? Interact with each other. So I think it's just a great experience.
You know, I don't know how in the middle of nowhere such a great institution got developed. We really do have an environment where faculty work across faculty ranks, across departmental borders, across college borders and divisions, and it was that way then, and it's that way today. And as I have colleagues at many other institutions, it really is special to be able to get an environment where it's so easy to move and mix and match with people to work in your different interest areas. And so I really think that carries on, and I've been all around the world, a number of places, and anytime I wear an Illinois t-shirt, somebody comes up on the street and says, I've been to University of Illinois, or my cousin went there, or I know somebody there. It really has made an impact around the world.
But my best teaching experience was once in the old days when we have transparencies, right? So I come in with my stack of transparency to give a class. I put the first transparency down, and we spent the whole class on that one transparency. There were so many questions, so many discussions going on, and you could feel the level of excitement in the class rising, and we spent the whole hour just with one slide. It was great.
It's very gratifying. I mean, when you're teaching and you look at the students and you see that the light bulb, go on in people's faces, that their faces kind of light up, and you see the light come in, so to speak. I mean, I think that's really gratifying, and hopefully it happens every class, every once in a while.
The best moments, I have been very privileged to enjoy some of the best moments. You go to the class, and sometimes the students will be asking a very controversial question and will challenge me. I just love it. I start bouncing off the wall. I love some of the controversial things that students bring up on the natural resource. Sometimes, for example, does agriculture contribute to the greatest pollution in the Mississippi River and things like that? Wow, you hit the right area that I want to speak for hours like that. And sometimes I speak for about half an hour, and it's, oh my goodness, what I do with the other thing that I planned to do today. So, but then I think I come back, I just say, that was the best class that I had. The students learned something more about me than what I do, other than these class materials. So, and there are many other things probably, but those are the things that I like, and I think every time I get back from class, other than those times that my worst moments, I get so excited and energized from coming from classes.
So when you walk out of a lecture, you always reflect on it, and you're only as good as your last lecture. You always think, oh, I wish I could have done this, and that's good. It's good to be able to actually stop and pause and reflect and think about how you might do things differently. So you're applying this feedback loop idea, right? Try something and see how it works, but take a moment to think about how you can do it better. Invariably, my worst teaching moments are always when I walk out of a lecture and think, oh, I wish I'd managed my time better, that I rushed something at the end. I spent too long at the beginning or didn't reach enough students in trying to explain something.
You know, I oftentimes tell people about the first test I ever gave in the first class that I taught. You know, it was a hour exam, 100 points. I think the average was 25 or something like that. Yeah, it was terrible. And because I was so clever in writing such what I thought were really cool questions, right, that none of the students could do it. So it was sort of and it was one of those cases where, I wasn't trained, right, to give exams and teachers. I'd been trained to be a researcher and an engineer. So there was a very rapid learning curve figuring out and sort of thinking this whole thing through, right, and sort of rescuing that. It worked out okay in the end, but I'm sure there was a lot of stress for the students after they got those back. So I tried not to repeat that.
I would have to say the most interesting story stories revolve around students writing me emails after they graduate. So I've received lots of emails. I wish I could tell you this was atypical, but it's not. I've received lots of emails that say, I thought when you were covering this in class, I thought this was really useless because I thought it was really common sense, or no one really does this in the real world, and why are we really going over this? I'm never going to see this again. And I just kind of got through it, and I didn't really think much of it. And now I have to sit through 4-hour meetings every day doing that same thing that we were covering in class, which was some kind of troubleshooting process because some part of the plant has shut down and there's some issue there. And that is so rewarding, is when I see somebody kind of finally get it and they say, okay, I understand now why we learned that, and that was useful.
How does it define engineering? Yes. So engineering is a discipline where people would use science and apply science to solve problems, improve, in my case, materials, processes, or make new materials, right, and new processes. And this university has a strong record of discovering new materials, new processes.
A lot of employers like Illinois engineers because they think they can work with anybody. They can work with all kinds of people. Another recent alum commented to me, he said, I was really quite intrigued to find that even though when I was here at Illinois I thought I was kind of a middle of the pack student, now that I'm in the work world I realize that I and other people from Illinois, and he named one other school I won't name, set the standard for what's good engineering.
I would say it's rigorous education grounded in fundamental principles with applications to new and interesting problems. I think it's pretty broad-based. In addition to kind of the fundamental skills and on the technological side, students also get an appreciation, I think, for communication skills, for solving problems. I think it provides a student with a very good platform for the career.
I think people should realize that engineers have an impact on society. The common things they use in the hospital, they use in their toasting, when they are toasting their bread in the morning, when they are using their microwaves, those are things from engineers. So we always tell them that we produce things that change people's lives.
In my opinion, good engineers are those that are either going to solve the world problems, and by that I mean really solve the world problems, like clean water, clean air, the basics, not the latest gadget on my kid's computer. And that, or they're entrepreneurs or they're visionaries, and they can just see down the line like other people can't. And engineering to me is an art form. Seriously, I think it's a neglected art form. I think it's It's a art coupled with science, and not everyone has all the qualities, but I'm around people who have all those qualities, and it's just a great place to work.
We are the modern magicians. We create things that other people cannot. We have to know the details of our clay. And we have to know how it can fall apart and how it can be used and when it might break. But in many ways, we are the modern magicians.
Somebody tells you that engineering is easy, they're either lying or joking. Engineering is never easy. I would say chemical engineering is one of the most challenging types of engineering that are out there. There's a lot of chemistry, there are a lot of labs. It really takes a lot out of you, but it is completely and totally worth it, because when you leave the university, especially with a degree in chemical engineering from the University of Illinois, you have proven yourself as a top-notch engineer. I would argue that you have proven that you are competitive with the best engineers in the world when you have a degree from here.
And so AE3 just really fed into providing me with a lot of understanding and tools and things I really could implement into the classroom. And as I started implementing them, they were working, and I just saw my classroom change into a totally different environment. My classroom was fine before, and I had felt a good rapport with students, and I enjoyed the classroom, but this really took it to a different level where I felt in implementing these things that I was shifting from the person who just gives tests and counts the beans and sees how many each person has, to setting the goals for the classroom and then moving over to the student side to figure out how do we get people over to this level of understanding. And so there's real substance to the things it does. And
it's been very influential. I think that I'm so grateful that we have an organization like that and within the College of Engineering. I hope it continues to get supported, because they help put together Fast Start, which is a program for faculty that help them get started with teaching and with being a faculty member, and that's required for every faculty member in the College of Engineering. So that's really important. It's a week-long program that teaches you time management and teaching techniques and how to make sure you survive and be successful. That's really helpful. And then having them also observe your classes is really helpful as well. I've had that done plenty of times. I've learned things that, annoying things that I do that I've tried to correct as a result of having somebody tape me or having somebody observe me. It's really useful.
And I think that was particularly interesting because I didn't have too much teaching experience. I'd been a grader for a class and taught a couple of lectures when the professor was out of town. But that's about it. So that really helped me get off the ground in teaching to begin with. We said, they very systematically explained how to design a class, some of the good teaching practices. You normally don't, you see them and you recognize a good teacher when you see one, but you don't analytically think about why they're a good teacher. You just enjoyed their class and you enjoyed interacting with them, but you don't quite think about how should I emulate them, or at least their best practices. And so that was very useful. What was also very useful was from that workshop, we got to know of this facility at the Center for Teaching Excellence, that they would actually send people over to your class and give you feedback. So I think the initial Fast Start workshop and the initial input that they gave in designing courses and teaching classes, and then sending experts to your class to actually help you out in sort of real time, were really, really useful. I think that the first time that I taught that class, I was below the best teachers incomplete list, but then every semester afterwards I've been on it. And it's really that initial help that was provided really is the key to that.
AE3 was it was the very first course I ever had, or exposure I ever had, to teaching methods. And in most cases, we go through and we take courses as graduate students or undergrads, and then we're kind of thrown into the university environment and expected to teach. And there's no formal training. And so it was a nice way to both reassure me that what I was doing was, I think, okay, and to give me some tools that I could work on to improve my teaching. So I thought it was great. I think it also allowed me to get a better feel for how the university works and to connect with other people outside of my department. So I knew what was going on in other areas of campus. So overall, it was a great experience.
Okay, so for new professors that are learning to teach, I would say be organized, be thoughtful of how students learn and how much they can learn, and remember that most students are not like you. Many professors are at the top of their field. We have to teach to a whole variety of people. The best students are going to learn no matter how well or how poorly you teach. It's the B-level students that maybe don't have as much background in the subject that you have to reach. I would say expect great things from your TAs and tell them exactly what you expect and they will achieve that. And I would say look for ways to inspire students. If they are excited and engaged in the subject, they'll learn more. Don't treat it as simply just spoon-feeding. Instead, think about it as how can you make students challenge themselves to learn the material.
Well, I guess you get a lesson every day, I suppose, but definitely what I think one has to do is to listen, because you never have all the answers. And although you think you know everything, right, because you've studied and gotten degrees, but sometimes anybody can teach you something. In real life situations, you need to have to balance theory and practice, right? So I listen to people. I think that's the most important thing.
There's always a different way to do something, whether it's teaching or creating things, creating programs. There's always different ways to solve the same problem. And sometimes the students show me that, and sometimes I discover it, and sometimes the TAs discover it, and sometimes it's about actually programming, and sometimes it's about teaching.
Lessons that my patience, okay, being able to be not over patience, but patience in terms of, because we say we deal with machines, but at the end we deal with people. Okay, you have an open mind, because you get a lot of ideas. Don't make decisions too fast sometimes. Though once you've synthesized all the evidence, you can make decisions. But my line of work teaches you with patience. It teaches you to be skeptical to some extent, okay, because you get something that looks good in the lab, you better question it. It may be too good to be true. So it's patience, paying attention to details, those are very important, and making sure that you have an open mind. Open mind about evidence and open mind about people. Because I always say, open-minded people are magnets most people. Okay, that's very important. Yeah.
Let me tell you a story. So, about 30 years ago, there was a kid in my high school named Barry. Barry smiled a lot, he read books, he liked to play basketball. Barry is now President of the United States. So I like to think that in my classroom, sitting before me, are people who 30 years from now will become President of General Electric, Governor of Wisconsin, people who really are going to change the world and make this world a better place. And if I can educate those students in some way that prepares them for their future careers, then I think that that's what I want to do as a professor.
So once again, I'm very grateful for the opportunity to stop for a moment and reflect on something that I think had a substantial and immediate and positive impact. And now, 15 years later, we can recognize and understand that it also has had an enduring impact on what we do. So thanks very much, and I wish you the best.